Last week, the faculty at the University of New Mexico voted overwhelmingly in favor of unionization. Once the results are certified, there will be 2 new bargaining units on UNM campuses, one for regular faculty and one for adjunct faculty. And Martha, unions seem to be having a bit of a moment here with the GM strike in Chicago. Certainly the teacher strike, Chicago teacher strike, I should say, and a number of newspapers unionizing, and now UNM. What do you think? Why do you think that is? What's happening in the greater movement about labor that unions are suddenly having a bit of a moment here?
Well, people are not making the money they should be making. I mean, that's the bottom line. They don't have the bargaining power they have with the union. And workers, look at the public schools, how many strikes we've had just in the last year. Teachers walking out because they're on food stamps. And that is a public service that we should all honor and pay for. And give the kind of benefits. At UNM, they hadn't had what they say a meaningful raise in 10 years.
That's right.
And the cost of their benefits is going up.
Right.
People, it's not only the injustice of it, it's the reality. They can't pay their bills.
That's right. That's right. Kathy, I'm perhaps not shocked. The adjunct professor crew voted 90% and above for this. 90% voted yes. I'm amazed it was as low as 90%.
Right.
Knowing what we know about adjunct professors, right?
But I think that, they qualify for public assistance.
Yes.
And they've spent their careers working on education, and we're saying that we value education, and we don't pay them. So they couldn't wait to get there to vote for it. It's only the first hurdle.
Right.
There's going to be many
there'll
more.
be more.
There'll be many more because, what I predict, and you heard it here first, is that there will be probably some tension between the full-time faculty and the adjunct faculty about what gets negotiated in their contract.
Right.
So
That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah. But there will be 2 separate entities sort of governing both those bodies, right? The adjunct folks and the...
There will be. And that's consistent, frankly, with how the university treats those 2 groups.
Okay.
Across the country, there has been a movement at universities to hire more adjuncts because they don't have as many rights within the employment context at the university. They don't have access to tenure. They don't have as reliable schedules and pay and things like that. They're paid quite a bit less. And so, yes, I think that there will be different priorities between those 2 unions. And as the negotiations, I think that was a very perceptive point, as negotiations go forward, we're going to see that play out. But I think it's worth noting, conflict in a union context is not a sign of failure.
No.
Let's remember that when people advocate for their rights, they don't do it and the other side just rolls over.
Right.
There's going to be
It's
strife.
not the American way.
There's
That's right.
going to be strife here, and we should not view that as a failure of the union system.
Right.
Well,
Interesting
it
point there.
is
Please.
interesting that the provost wrote this long email that he sent to everyone, and he's advocating for peer review. That's basically the tenure system.
Yep.
I have been married to a professor for 35 years, and believe me, he can tell you that if in the peer review system, if the peers want you to have tenure, they're going to find a way to give it to you, and if they don't, they're going to find a way not to give it to you. And it's very, very subjective. The adjunct thing is different. Ellen Bernstein said, and you alluded to it, that 25% of the adjuncts are on public assistance. Well, you know what? We know that Walmart coaches some of its employees on how to get on food stamps. Do we want UNM to be the Walmart of academia?
Right.
I think she wins.
That's right. Right. It's Diane, it's interesting. We're not a big union state. Outside of public employees and, certainly the film business, Local 480, all that kind of thing. We're not a huge union state, so I'm just kind of curious if this is going to have some kind of domino effect or just kind of change the landscape here in New Mexico about how we view unions. Any possibility there?
Maybe, but I don't see that.
Okay.
Because you still got all your rural areas. It's like, okay, UNM has unionized.
Right.
What about tech or state?
Sure.
People, I think, or northern New Mexico,
Well, let me ask you this. On that note, the campuses, the UNM campuses in Gallup and other places are going to be part of this unionization as
Yes, they
well.
are.
UNM
You know?
is a huge employer in New Mexico.
That's right.
It is one of our biggest employers.
Right.
That's
so
right.
That is worth noting.
That will increase the numbers of employees who are union members. But I don't see anything else. I mean, we already where else would we go? Now that we have it in higher education, because we've got it in manufacturing, we've got it in movies. Telecommunications is an opportunity, but I don't see it being this. Everybody's going to rush out
Well,
to create.
We've got coal miners out there that are unionized. We've got railroad workers.
But you've
we've
got
got
a
teachers.
movement, again, back to the Walmarts of the world, and there are many, not just Walmart itself. For low-wage workers, there have been movements to try to get those, Fight for 15 is one of them,
Right.
to try to get them unionized. I do want to mention one more thing, though, in this context, because about 7 or 8 years ago, the United States Justice Department found that UNM was engaging in gender pay discrimination. And I worked with some of the women, there were 8 or 9 of them that were complaining about it. The Justice Department ruled in their favor. However, the Justice Department said, we're not going to prosecute this, and here's why. Only one of the 8 or 9 women was willing to put her name on the line on a lawsuit. In other words, they could not get a class action together because the other women were afraid.
Right.
And I am thinking if they had had a union, that would have been a very different outcome.
Right.
The other point that concerns me about doing this is the legislature still does the appropriation of funding to the University of New Mexico. And if you have a labor union, just like it does to the public schools, is if you have a union that's negotiated, and maybe rightly so, certainly if it's been 10 years since they had a meaningful raise, but then their raises may have been the same raises that state employees and public school teachers have been getting.
That's right.
But if the union is successful at negotiating a significant raise, then where's the money coming from?
Okay.
Because the legislature is still going to give what it wants to give to the university. And then the money has to come from someplace.
Oh, I have a place. I have a
we're all
place.
thinking the same
The football coach is making $422,000 a year. That's 10.
We've had basketball
that's
coaches
10
north of
pretty good
900,000.
adjunct
Right.
jobs right there that are way above the poverty line.
right.
If we
Right.
got rid of football altogether, not just the coach, buddy, that would pay for a lot of it.
And I think that what the faculty is saying is that now with the collective bargaining unit, the university is going to have to open up its books and say, where is your priority? Because we know that your budget document and how you pay people is how you value them. So they want to find out, who do you value more than you value us? And so now with the collective bargaining unit, they have to pony up with some information.
That's right. I'm curious, Sophie, if that affects the right to work movement.
The so-called right to work.
So-called, thank you.
So-called right to work.
Does this have any impact on?
Well, I mean, it is, I think, directly counter to the idea that I can fire you at any time.
Right.
And, I mean, it provides protections. It's interesting because New Mexico really has not, until relatively recently, has not seen the kind of recovery from the recession, has not seen the incredible decrease in unemployment rates, although when you pick those numbers apart, they're not quite as good as they look. But as it's such an interesting phenomenon to me that as it seems New Mexico workers are developing just a little bit more market power, now they're able to say.
But the legislature had to step in and pass a law saying that you can't do right to work individually in counties or in communities.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well, that's taking away the right of the county and the city. Why should
way to look at
should
it.
it have to all be the same? We don't do that for a lot of other different subjects. We're going to allow flexibility, or at least the
Although we
recommendations.
do it for a lot of different subjects, not
Well,
just here.
we
but
have the
across
same
country.
laws,
Right.
and
But
you can't
they
murder
had to
somebody
pass-
in one county
It was
and not the
progressing
other.
so
Exactly. You
May I
have to-
finish? It was progressing so fast, and so importantly and so widespread that the Democratic legislature and governor had to pass a law saying you couldn't do it.
I think there were 10 counties or something that had right to work or that were trying to pass it. But, you know, I do think that there has to be some consistency and that we do have a situation where people still get to choose. You don't have to be a part of the union.
You don't
It's
have
not
to.
mandatory.
Yeah.
Let's see how this goes down, because now the real fun begins, that negotiation about
Right.
what pay is going to be. These sometimes can be protracted, long-fought battles, so we'll see what happens. Labor battles are always fascinating. Out of time there on unions for now. We'll be back in a bit to talk about the Democratic Party in the state legislature.